All right. I think I think this is gonna work. I have a new camera set up. I think I like it. I think I like it. Canon recently released a thing where you can hook up like an actual DSLR camera, so I don't have to use a webcam. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out, but I like the angle. Um, Seems fun. Seems a little more profesh. Still, again, figuring out lighting, all of the observer shit. Um, but what's up, guys? How we doing? How we doing? I'm excited. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to be here. Excited to be back. I was gone for a couple of weeks doing some work, seeing family. My family has a business that we're all involved in, so went back to do some of that. Holidays are a busy time, and now I'm back in LA doing the thing. And yesterday on the Facebook group, I posted something a little offhandedly, um, and I think I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes the math works, sometimes it doesn't. I think we stumbled onto something here. Um, Before I get into this, don't get super, super caught up in the language in terms of using this as cross checks. This is more on like the personal growth side of things, because the language around it is flexible, it's malleable, it doesn't really matter. I am more interested in the underlying concept and sort of using this sort of Punnett square math to sort of examine ourselves, look at some blind spots, that sort of thing. So here's what I said in the group. It started when I was watching. I posted a video of Cat Williams. Cat Williams. He's a stand-up comic. Used to be like super, super well-known and famous, and then he kind of fucked his life up, and there was a whole feud between him and Kevin Hart. Like, Cat Williams sort of left the game, and then Kevin Hart kind of filled that void, and they were beefing, and then Cat Williams was talking shit. It was a whole thing. Cat Williams definitely an IP. Holy shit. But sort of like a consume sleepy IP. Big Don't Control Me vibes. And I love Cat Williams as a comic. I think he is so fucking funny. And I just never quite clicked with him as a person. Like on like a human whatever interview kind of level. And I haven't thought about him for years, and this video sort of popped up on my YouTube feed, and I was like, oh right. Because he has, again, he's consume and sleep as savior. I'm almost like, he is not Tony Robbins. He is definitely more on the Elon Musky side of things. Again, I don't know if he's lead sleep or lead consume, but he's definitely got those two very, very high. And just sort of watching him and sort of seeing how he moves through the world and thinking about some of the other people in my life. I just finished binging the entire series of Yellowstone. Oh, fuck. That show is so good. Oh, my God. But again, you got a bunch of cowboys, and, there's the bunkhouse where the cowboys live, and, there's some drifters, and they're doing their thing. And there's another character in that show. He plays the guitar. He's really an interesting character. I like him a lot. But there again, he's got a lot of lead consume. Or if not lead consume, certainly savior consume. He's probably some sort of, SE in the middle kind of guy. And, they're talking about all this stuff, and they get into like, just sort of like being a drifter and going from place to place and not setting down roots and sort of going where the wind takes you. And, there's a great little scene. There's context around it, but there's a great little scene of him. And he's talking about how he hasn't decided where home is going to be tonight. That's the basic crux of what he's talking about. It's like, well, He's like, so where, are you headed home? And he says, I haven't decided where home is tonight. And I thought that was so interesting because that fucking blows my mind. Like, as an IJ, even though I have double activated savior play, like, that mindset is just fucking wild to me. Because that's why I had to get out of the musical theater game, is because it required you to live in such an aggressively transient way. And I think about my friend Annie. I really like her a lot. And I don't know her, like, she's not like a bestie, but like we've been friends for a while and sort of loose acquaintances. And I don't know if she's still doing this, but there was a really long time where she had like an apartment in Queens that she would sublet. But the goal, like, she was just on the road all the time. And she would sublet out her place. And she wasn't really concerned about like making back all of the money or some of the money or try to get whatever. She was just like, yeah, whatever. It'll all come out in the wash. And I have a place to come home to, when I'm done with this tour, and I'm banking extra money and just sort of like living her life from place to place. And she is somebody who has a lot of consume in her as well. And I started just thinking about all these different, like, what really consume is about. And consume to me, like in the purest sense, is I trust future me more than past you. Right? And the reason I was able, right, and so, right, because you want that Punnett square, you want those binary coins that you can flip over and make the combinations, right? But even just that first part, like the amount of trust in future me that these savior consumes have is just fucking bananas. It's incredible for me to watch. It doesn't, yeah, the scenario of not having a home base or having everything is transient is terrible. Yeah. I mean, and again, I think that it could depend on like a couple, whatever the different animals are and the growth and where you're at. And here's the thing, like having a home base, this woman, Annie, she has a home base. Like, she has done the OI stability thing. She's had the same apartment. Again, I haven't spoken to her recently, but I mean, for 10 years, she just had this apartment. She had a room, or it was a room in a 3-bedroom apartment that she just always had. And she put in the time to build that OI stability for herself, so that she could go and travel and do all these other things. So she really did it smart. This fictional cowboy, not so much. He's, he's a supporting character in a prestige drama about the Wild West. Alphaness is not really in the cards for this particular character, at least not so far, at least not in the first 3 seasons. But anyway, so so I was thinking about that. I was like, and Consume is so trusting, not just of the future, but of like my place in the future. And it's this very like, I trust myself to deal with whatever problems arise in the future. I can deal with it then. I will deal with it, whether that's, again, don't read too much into the actual verbiage, but it's very much, I trust my ability to deal with that scenario in the moment when it arises. There's a whole phrase built around this. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Which to me, as a blaster, I don't know. I don't want to. I want to have a plan for when we get to that bridge. I don't want to be fucking making up a plan in the moment and dealing with this bridge in the moment. In another conversation in the OP group, we were talking about, this was in the thread about Cat Williams. We were talking about like NI versus SE. And, one of the things that, it was in the same thread. And so in New York City, right, it's really difficult to carry an umbrella with you. You can do it, but like if you have your coat and your bag and you have an umbrella and you're on the subway and walking through people and you have to find a place at your office, like depending on whatever. So generally speaking, not everybody, but lots and lots of people don't often bring umbrellas with them. And so if it rains, like if you know it's going to rain, like if it is raining when you leave your apartment, fine, bring an umbrella. But if it's not raining when you leave your apartment, it is often the better decision to not bring an umbrella and then to just go into like a corner store, a bodega, a camera store, a souvenir shop, whatever, and buy a shitty umbrella for $5 to like carry with you for whatever the rest of your walk is, right? Or if it's a short walk, like from your place to the subway and your subway home, if you're not outside that much, fuck it, just deal with the rain. But it's very, very common to I called it the rain tax, where it's like it's not worth it to plan, and you just have to accept that if it rains, you just have to pay the $5 rain tax. You'll get a shitty umbrella that will walk you from your office to the subway, your subway to home. You will throw out the umbrella as soon as you get home because it's a shitty umbrella. It's just enough to get you through that little stretch of rain, right? And that's a very save your OE, save your consume kind of mentality. And it's this feeling of like, oh, look, if it rains, whatever, fuck it. I'll get a fucking umbrella. Like, it's not a big deal. We can handle this. We can find a fucking umbrella. Oh no, it's $5. End of the fucking world, right? No, it's not. You just get a fucking umbrella. It's fine. Calm down. Whereas my blast, and I sort of learned how to do that, and I am actually moderately comfortable doing that, but there is a part of my OI brain that's like, and actually, how about this? The only reason I'm comfortable doing that is because I know that that has worked for everybody in the past. Like, I didn't come up with this. This is like received wisdom, thing you picked up just over a decade of living somewhere. You learn the ins and outs and the system. And I'm like, oh, right. When it rains, this is the plan. This is what you account for, right? But there's still a part of me that's like, okay, I had like, do I need to check to make sure that I have $5? If I don't have $5, I have to go to an ATM and I gotta like withdraw money to get this umbrella, and now I'm even more wet, and it's a whole thing. Like that's the OI route that's very easy to go down. But especially, when we're talking about sleep versus consume versus blast, right? The consume is like, I trust future me to gather an umbrella. Whereas save your blast is more like, okay, well, hang on a second. I'm responsible for making a plan that works for as many people as possible. So can I trust everybody to gather an umbrella? What if that seems very complicated. Like, we need a plan because I trust what has worked for others in the past. And again, in this case, my Savior Blast was totally fine because it's, oh yeah, no, this is just what you do. You just account for it. There's plenty of umbrellas. It's not hard to find an umbrella. You just pay the $5 rain tax, right? In the past, this has worked for lots of people, so we're good, right? So anyway, once I was able to sort of triangulate that and sort of really understand this sort of biological thrust of consume, right? And be able to sort of triangulate that with blast and sort of see the like, oh, right, blast is very much, it's not about me, it's about the group. And we want order and predictability and stability, right? Because I have to give the people a plan. I have to tell the people what they need to know so that they can do the thing and be like, oh my God, he was like such a good leader. When he like gave us that plan, that was like really cool of him. That's what Blast wants, right? That's all that we want all the time. So I started thinking about that, and I came up with this little pithy 4-sentence thing. Consume, which is OE and DI, is I trust future me, right? Whether it's, future me will deal with it in the moment. Again, whatever language you want to put around that, it's just that we're looking at the basic idea, right? In fact, how about this? Maybe if we add at the end of all of this, consume is I trust future me to deal with it in the moment, right? Play is I trust future us to deal with it in the moment, right? It's listen, we got a band of people and we're out adventuring and we're gathering together and listen, between the 5 of us, we can figure out whatever we need to figure out, right? I got the IJ thing covered. You have the EP thing covered. You have the EJ thing. We got a couple of IPs who are just doing whatever the fuck they want to do. I don't know. I don't understand IPs. Y'all are magical elven people, as far as I'm concerned, who just live life by your own rules, and I admire that. But it's like, look, between all of us, we will be fine. That's what play is all about, right? Play wants to throw the ball back and forth. It's like, listen, because we are a group, we don't need a plan. We can just rely on each other in the moment. It's like, oh, snap, there's a spider coming at you. I'm spider guy. Like, I got you. Like, I know that spiders are not your thing. I will deal with the spider. I'll be like, that is a badass spider. Get the fuck away. Or, oh no, that spider is fine. You're good. Don't even trip. Right? But if there's, a leopard tries to attack me, I'm not leopard guy. I'm spider guy. But that's okay. I don't need to be leopard guy because that guy is leopard guy and he can fuck up a leopard. Right? So, between the all of us, we can deal with whatever issue arises in the moment together, right? So I trust future you to handle the problem for me, right? And then we have sleep. Sleep is interesting. Sleep is I trust past me. I trust what has worked for me before. I don't trust I don't trust this future chaos nonsense. The tribe members are idiots. They don't know a fucking thing. I know what has always worked for me before. This is like I'm sticking to my guns. Like, I know what works for me before, regardless of what works or has worked for other people. I'm gonna do me. I'm just doing me. I'm not worrying about other people. I'm staying in my lane. I'm doing what has worked for me before and trusting that what has worked for me in the past will work for me in any given moment, right? So whatever problem arises in the moment, it's going, okay, yes, I trust what worked for me in the past to deal with this problem effectively. And then blast. So blast is it's a tricky one. I think it makes sense in the context of the other 3, but to like put a label on it in this is a little funky. But basically, blast is I trust what has worked for other people in the past. So going back to Yellowstone, because I can't. So it's on Peacock. If you, depending on if you have cable or I don't know whatever your TV situation is, it's a little hard to get. Like, you have to pay for it on Amazon, and that's a mess. It's not on any of the other good streaming platforms. But if you have Peacock, check out Yellowstone. Show is fucking incredible. But the main guy, John Dutton, Kevin Costner, this man blasts sleep ISTJ to hell. Oh my fucking God. Holy shit. This man is just IJ blast sleep all day. Consume last. Very aggressively consume last. He does not want to do anything different. He knows what works for him. He knows what's worked for 7 generations of Dutton Ranch. And he doesn't like the idea of him doing something different. Like, it fucking breaks his brain. Like, he can't even process how, like, what? No, but we're ranchers. It's like, yeah. And in 5 years, you ain't gonna have a fucking ranch to ranch because money is happening and like multi-billion-dollar corporations are trying to fuck you up. You can't pretend like it's 1886 anymore, John. Goddamn. The fuck is wrong with you? Like, so that's his big issue, but his greatest strength and greatest weakness is his blasting, because he's like, I know what has worked for 7 generations of Duttons, and I'm trusting that whatever problem is in front of me it's already in my little, known box of how to do shit. I think he's an ISTJ. I think he's lead SI because he's very calm about people. And it is very much about like the things and the ranch and the mountains and the scenery, and the people are a part of that. But it's very much about like, no, this is my land. I'm not getting rid of my land. I'm protecting my land. He seems to have more observer problems than decider problems compared to the other people in the show. Like Beth, oh boy, decider issues to hell. Decider issues to hell. And John, Kevin Costner, does not seem to have those. Anyway, television plug aside, every time a new problem comes up, he's like, okay, let me look back into my box of known information, right? My OI, and see what worked for other people. Because again, I think he has demon identity. He's very much about like the next generation and, providing for his family and being the commissioner and doing the things at the expense of his own identity, oftentimes. His identity is not great. So he's like, well, what have 7 generations of my family done? Oh, they did this? Great. This is what we'll do. And here's the thing. Sometimes he's right. So you can't say like, you should never rely on past information, because sometimes, like, depending on what the problem is, sometimes the thing that worked for other people in the past is actually the right decision, right? Sometimes it is not, which is where the sort of being in the moment component, I think, comes in, and why I think it's so important. And I did not include that in my original post. So I'm actually, after I finish this, I'm going to go and amend this post to sort of include the being in the moment. Because really, like, when we're living life, regardless of your type, like, I don't care what type you are, be here now, right? Be here now, be in the moment, be present with your environment, the people who are in the room with you, the situation, the vibe. Like, being present is so important no matter what, right? But where I think this type stuff becomes really, really interesting and really useful is being able to say, okay, so I'm in the moment. How am I going to deal with this in the moment? Like, what tools am I going to use? Someone who's savior OE or lead consume is going to be vastly more comfortable being like, ooh, okay, let's find a new solution. Or not even let's, that's more play. Consume is like, I am going to find a new solution to this problem in front of me, because this problem is different than any other problem, and I need to be good with it, and I need to find a new solution to this obviously new situation, right? Whereas a blaster is not going to be as comfortable doing that, and is going to be much more comfortable going, okay, here's the situation that's in front of me. How am I going to deal with this? Okay, this looks like a situation from my past. So let me go back into my catalog and be like, this is right. This is like 17B. Do we have a 17B? Yes. Okay. So 17B looks like this. Here's how I dealt with 17B Okay, I'm going to start with that. We're gonna use solution 17b first. And if that doesn't work, well, then I have to try something else. But that's what I'm going to start with, right? And even more broadly, when we're talking about the animals and whatever and the functions and the this and the that, I really want to open up the conversation and move the conversation towards function order and animal order more than likes doing, dislikes doing, can do, can't do, strong muscle, weak muscle. That's all part of it, right? But I think that all of those are trumped by this is just the order in which I tend to prefer to solve problems, right? So for me, I'm blast, play, consume, sleep last. So any given situation, right? So how about this? Here's like a really clear example, right? So I got a new camera set up and I tried it before with a different camera and it was a mess. But Canon came out with this new thing and I've been wanting a new webcam and I had some extra money from a work thing I did a few months ago. And I was like, okay, great. This is it. We're going to do this. Great. And so my blast was like, okay, this is new. This is okay. So here in the moment, I have to set up this new thing, right? I have to set up this camera, do the thing. The first thing I did was like, let me read the instruction manual because I don't trust my ability to figure shit out and to just play with the toy. I don't trust that as much as I trust some known pre-recorded information, right? I'm like, I'm not going to figure this out myself. There are instructions that are listed. I'm just going to follow the steps. It's going to be fine. I don't have to worry about that, right? That was the first thing. And then the play, right? So if that didn't work, right? Happened to work. Great, because it's a camera. And of course, there's, resources. Like there's the pre-recorded video that, comes with the software. And there's the instruction. But there's known information that other people have put together that exists, that works for them, that works for the tribe at scale. I'm just going to start with that. But, if that didn't work, then I would say, all right, well, let me go onto the forums. Let me see if I can troubleshoot there. Maybe some people have some suggestion, right? Play with the tribe a little bit, bounce things off of other people. And then if that didn't work, then I'd be like, oh, fuck, okay, fine. I guess I just have to consume and try new shit because apparently this problem is weird and new and I've never seen it, but I guess if I just futz around and push some buttons and maybe that'll work and maybe that'll get there. And then if all of those things fail, then I would be like, okay, what has worked for me in the past? What has worked for me in the past is using my Logitech, webcam, the C920, and I probably would just, scrap the whole thing. I'd return it to Target and just go back to using my normal webcam, right? Because that's what's worked for me in the past. None of those answers individually are bad. It so depends on exactly what Jessica said. It depends on the type of problem and issue you're having to deal with, right? Where this type stuff can get really, really messy and negative and unhelpful is when we look at it as whatever you're doing is either right or wrong, right? And that's not how any of life works. It's not how any of life works. The Myers-Briggs community gets their ass kicked all the time because they're all about, again, the Myers-Briggs community tends to not be very growth mindset. And they tend to be like, listen, whatever your two first functions are, right? Your SI and your TE, your NI, your whatever it is, you should use those two and just force the entire world into those two, most comfortable lead savior functions, right? Or your two savior animals. Oh, yeah, I'll just blast play my way through life because that's comfortable, that's easy, that's the default wiring. And there are lots of problems where blast play is absolutely the right call. And I definitely don't believe in depriving ourselves of our savior functions or our savior animals when it's the right call. The problem is when it's like, you know what? This situation really requires some consume, but I don't wanna, so I'm gonna do blast instead. Now you're fucked. Right? So, as long as you don't do that, right? And when we're talking about objective personality, it really does, at least in my opinion, I think so much of it comes down to learning how to zoom out, learning how to go, okay, let me get out of myself, let me get out of my emotions, I'm out of my mental state, whatever it is, and just look at like, what does this situation truly require to succeed, regardless of what I'm comfortable with, what other people, like whatever. What does this situation need? What does this moment need? And that's when you're going to stumble on like, oh, this is what I'm good at, or ooh, that is not my favorite muscle, right? If I like to think of my demon functions and demon animals, my SE, my FI, and my consume sleep modes. I like to think of those as pinch hitters. They may or may not hit a home run. Sometimes a pinch hitter hits a home run. That's just a thing that happens. But it's not the pinch hitter's job to hit the home runs. And to expect your pinch hitter to be a home run hitter and to bat cleanup all the time, now the guy who's like, no, I'm fucking, what's the guy's name? Aaron Judge, right? Like, Aaron Judge is not a pinch hitter. Aaron Judge is like a massive individual who just fucking crushes it. And that's what you want him doing. So don't make him pinch hit, right? Pinch hitter's job is to pinch hit. Sometimes knock it out of the park. Sometimes it's just like, sacrifice fly to get a last run, whatever it is, right? And where I think it's very easy to run into issues is just when you don't assign your functions the right roles. And from there, now we can start to build productively. Because, at least in my opinion, I think it's a lot easier to build something if you know what you're building towards, which I know sounds kind of obvious, but I don't necessarily believe in growth just for the sake of growth, right? My NF for a very long time was like not good and couldn't pinch hit. So what would happen, and again, because I'm a glass lizard, I'm incredibly fortunate that I was sort of able to delay, sort of big crash tidal waves. Because, my functions were just like they're a little more balanced by default. So that helped a lot. But still, like, my FI was not in good shape and hasn't been in good shape and couldn't pinch hit when it needed to. I can think of many a situation with a lady friend when the right call was like, and this was like, especially my 20s and early 30s in New York, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna need a chemical reaction from you right now. And I'd be like, merp, logic, block banging. And they're like, oh my fucking God. No. Right? So that's the sort of thing you want to watch out for. Is if you have a function or an animal that can't pinch hit, work on that animal. Because you're going to get fucked if that animal can't pinch hit. You just will. Or if it can only pinch hit in like the most perfect of circumstances and in like really gentle, low stakes, like if it can only do that, you might want to beef it up a little bit. Because as you start to grow and have higher stakes and bigger situations or more complicated problems, you know, if you're accustomed to playing t-ball and all of a sudden you're like, oh, people are going to be throwing the ball at me. Right? Okay, well, in life, people are going to be throwing balls at you. There are going to be balls flying at your face a lot. That's just kind of how life works. Just balls everywhere, all the time. Just nothing but balls pummeling you. Right? And again, that's not to say that your pinch hitter has to be your grand slam hitter. But if your pinch hitter can only pinch hit when the ball is on the tee, he's got to work on that, right? Don't put him in the major leagues. Don't put him, against a professional major league pitcher. But like maybe start to get him comfortable with the ball in motion, right? And so when we're talking about, this function flow and, the animals and why they matter, et cetera, being able to triangulate and say, okay, this is what I'm comfortable doing, right? And if you can separate this is what I'm comfortable doing from this is what the situation ideally requires, now you can make progress. Because, okay, so how about this? So let's say, my ideal function order is blast, then play, then consume, then sleep, right? That's the ideal. There are some situations where if it's like sleep is the first best option, my impulse is to be like, I don't know about that. I don't know that I can do that. But if you look down, let's say again, whatever situation, if it's like sleep is ideal, but if you can't use sleep energy, then blast is fine and play is also fine. Then I'm like, oh, that's not so bad. Then okay, so I'm not, firing on all cylinders, but I can at least, if it's a sleep blast play situation, yeah, my blast play consume is fine. We can work with this, no sweat, right? But if the situation is like the optimal animal flow is consume, sleep, play, blast, last. Great for training, great for building muscles, but not sustainable. Not sustainable. I sort of, again, I think back to my musical theater days and just how much it felt very, I'm trying to think of which doc it is. It isn't quite the doc that's on the OP homepage, but sort of like, if you can do like play, consume, sleep, blast, last, you're going to be in fantastic shape doing musical theater. Fantastic shape. And I'm like, I can do the play enough, kind of. But like, again, let's also remember my play includes my last function. So even then, it's not always my favoriteest thing to do 24/7. But if it's like play, then consume, then sleep is what I have to do, well, now I'm not even using my first function ever. And then I just get stuck in play mode because I certainly don't want to consume or sleep if I haven't blasted already, right? So like that really gave me a lot of clarity to be able to go, oh, got it. This is not a good fit. This is forcing me to use my lower functions and lower animals in places where I really want to be making progress, and I don't just want to use this as a training ground. Look, as a training ground, it's fucking incredible. Oh my god. You know, I now look for spaces that do sort of, have that sort of consume sleep component to it. But with no stakes. Like I'm not like, so for me that's chess. I've been learning chess recently. It feels very consume sleep, right? I need to try new things and I need to build my own mental framework and lattices and whatnot. And it's great. I'm not fucking Princess Checkmate tomorrow. Like that's not happening. I don't even know if I will, just because of my age, if I will ever get to, like I don't think Grandmaster is even in the cards for me, just because of the amount of time it takes to get there. It's just that whatever. But that's not the point. I'm not trying to be a grandmaster at chess. I'm just trying to learn chess and fulfill myself and do some shit, right? And so that's fine that is, I can sort of get into my consume sleep mode there. But when it comes to my career and the stuff that I really want to like kick ass at, and it's like I feel like this is why I'm on this planet, like that kind of a thing, man, I can't do that. I need, for whatever my career looks like, for this like thing I'm supposed to be doing on this planet, it has to involve blast and play. And particularly it has to involve blasting first, because I know I can sustain that. And so part of my journey is figuring out, how can I get all of my human needs met, right? How can I continue to grow my DI and my OE, right? My consume. I don't ever want to stop growing it, but I don't want the growth of my consume and my ability to trust future me, and put things off and, oh, you know what? We'll deal with that later. Let's not worry about that right now. Right? I don't want to be in a situation where my livelihood depends on me being able to do that at a tier 1 level. It's not going to work. I'm going to crash and burn in the other direction, right? And so I think that, when we're talking about all these different animals and understanding the Punnett square nature of this, going back to sort of my loose definitions of like, I trust what worked for other people in the past, and I trust that, with a group of people, we can handle whatever comes in the future. Yeah. So I need to look for situations that play to my strengths while continuing to build up my lower functions, my lower animals, because now I feel like I'm at a point where, yeah, I can NI and TE all day long, and I can absolutely SE to hell. Like, let's fucking go. I got these 3 functions on lockdown. They can crush it every time, kind of no matter what. The SE, not so much. The SE, like, I'm not pro athlete level, but like, fuck it. Yo, if you need someone to help you move, call me. I will masculine sensory the fuck out of your possessions. I'll just start picking up boxes. You point me in a direction, I'll just fucking go. Like, I'll do that shit all day long. I will not complain. I'll be the happiest motherfucker alive. Right? But sometimes the FI is necessary. Sometimes I just got to FI, and I feel like I'm at a point now where I can go, okay, I can't do this all the time. I can do this like 30% of the time, like the FI stepping up to bat. 30% of the time, yeah, FI can handle that. Absolutely. And I trust that my FI won't embarrass me. It won't make other people upset. It won't fuck up the situation. Like, because I'm going into these situations understanding, like, this is not my strongest mode, but I can make it happen. Just don't heave, throw the ball. Listen. I want to. I want to. I know I shouldn't, but like my masculine SE consume just wants to like yeet shit all over the place. I want to. I'm sorry. I promise to be careful with your things. If ever I help you move, I will try. My point is, I'm now at a point where I can sort of see like, okay, what does the situation require? And let me just do what the situation requires. In the moment, doesn't matter. I do what's necessary. And then over time, if I find that, like, you know what, for this particular job, I have to use my FI 70% of the time, it's not a good fit. Whether it's a job, social media platform, relationship, friendship, city you live in, whatever it is, right? In the moment, use the right tool for the job, do your best, do what you can. But I think it's really important to be mindful of, listen, these are my strengths. This is what is sustainable for me 70% of the time. And then if you find yourself having to pinch hit more than 30% of the time, it's not pinch hitting anymore. That's the fucking job. And so you need to understand that and be okay with that. And if you're not okay with that, be like, you know what? I can't FI all the time. I can't survive on constant FI. I need my default mode to be NI and TE. And I think that's fine because there are plenty of places that want and need my NI and TE. And I just got to go find them. And that's okay. Conversely, if you are a lead consume SEFI, like if you're a consume play, skibby ESFP, don't fucking work a desk job. And, look, you can work a desk job. I don't care. Like, obviously anybody can do anything, but like, don't get into a desk job just because you think you have to, because that's not sustainable. Like, you're going to have to do some menial desk jobby data entry type things sometimes because that's part of life. But find a way, find a system, find a job, find a position, find a company where you don't have to do that 70% of the time. Where doing it 30% of the time is enough. So all of this is to say that I have two sort of big overarching points beyond it's so good to be back. I love making videos. I enjoyed the break, but man, am I glad to be back. The two things I want to leave you with are this. First and foremost, I think it's really important to be gentle with yourself during any process of growth. I think it is important to learn how to see a situation for what it is and for what it requires, and do your best to use the right tool for the job anytime you can, right? But know that, look, if over time, if you're taxed because you're like, I am not, like, for instance, I like any tool that makes me use this motion. Hammering, splitting wood. Oh man, I got to split some kindling wood. Oh, it was the fucking best. When I was home, because we have a big fire, so my mom likes to make fires and we like fires. So my dad had a bunch of wood in his shop, and I just fucking chopped wood for an hour. I was like, oh my god, I am chopper guy. I'm okay with a hammer, but like really, I'm axe man. I'm axe man for sure, right? So again, metaphorically, I recognize that other tools exist. Sometimes I have to use a drill. That's just a reality of life. I am perfectly comfortable using a drill. But if I have to drill all the time, it's going to be draining, right? And I'm not going to use a hatchet when the drill is the right tool, because that's not respecting the project, right? That's That's how you run your saviors into the ground. But I also recognize, like, all right, I'm maybe not going to take a job that's drilling 70% of the time and hatcheting 0% of the time, because I'm just going to burn out. Because all I want to do is just like chop wood and move boxes, and, you know, move bales of hay from that corner to that corner. Like, I'm good with that. I love it. I'm all about it. So that's the first thing. And then secondly, I think it is really, really important to acknowledge animal order, not acknowledge animal order as being distinct from want to, can, like. Those are not helpful adjectives. Verbs. Verbs? Verbs. Those are verbs. It's not helpful. It is much more helpful to say, this is my preferred order to do to do these animals, do these functions, do these whatever, right? This is my preferred order. What does the situation require? Okay, you know what? This is really a lead consume ordeal. This is a consume play skibby situation. Okay, I can work with this because I know, like, I don't get to blast, and that's okay. We're just playing. This is fine. I can consume play. I can consume play for a little bit, not forever. But I can consume play longer than I can consume sleep, for instance. Okay, that'll work. And then you'll be able to go into these situations not worrying about, am I doing it right? Is this like whatever? I don't know. Bum, 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 bum. Because you've already acknowledged what you can do. You know what you bring to the table, and you know what the situation requires, and you're going to do your best doing the consume play, trying to do what is right for the situation. And then if people get mad at you, and if they're like, Raja, no, you're not doing it right, then I can say, like, listen, guys, I'm going to be honest. This is not my strongest mode. And you can be honest about what your strongest mode is or isn't. And if that's not going to work for those people or for you or whatever, no harm, no foul. It's a bad fit. It's just a bad fit. All right, that's all I got for today. I'm still working up these muscles, but it feels very good to be back. It's lovely to see you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!